when it goes to this beginning, I can kind of start this off with a vertical, and we've done this almost like an isometric sketch where you have the rectangular shape, and this is just freehand, not really using the straight edge yet. But this is divided in half, so if you found the center of this just by crossing the diagonal, that's going to give you this point, and it's offset a little bit. You can see the shape, a little bit of a roundness to it. So just kind of angling this section as it goes to this piece. Once it gets there, that's where this is cut off. And now I have this pretty well set up. Kind of has a little bit of a curve there as the geometric shape goes for that. You can also incorporate the base of it. This does have a little bit of a texture, but again, the center line helping you locate this piece. This is the back for the handle, and it kind of goes off into the center. It's a cylindrical shape. Your proportion is what you're trying to look for as well. And again, when it gets way to the end, it's kind of an elliptical shape depending on which way you draw this. If you look at it from the front to the side, it has a little bevel to it. So it builds it up pretty quickly like that. Not too difficult, but sometimes the simple shapes make the most difficult sketches here. So I'm just going to take the pen, go right up on the top, using this straight. I'm just kind of giving a straight line coming on the base. And if I'm trying to shade this, you can see that the overall value of this handle and the texture of the wood is relatively light. So I'm just going to try to keep a light sketch, and I'm using the straight edge just as a way to push it along the edge, just to kind of get that initial value to it. This part that has the texture, when you see up close, it has a texture. It's not a straight line. So I can put a few textural pieces right up against that and do the same thing. So it's giving me a straight line, but at the same time it's not a completely connected segment. And it gives me that textural element right from the beginning. So once you get it laid out, go ahead and see if you can't shade it. Now keep in mind the overall value of the sponge is pretty dark, and then the overall value of the handle is just the opposite. Trying to get the value in there. So basically that's the texture I have. From here on out, I can give it the value. I can try to go with some of the lines in perspective. I can go use the straight edge just to make some of the cross lines. This isn't really a super straight piece. It just has a lot of the textural elements to show that, as you'll see on the paint when you apply it, being characteristic of that. So it still has to, again, try to get that dark and see if I can't sketch in those pieces. So depending on how you handle the texture, whether you use it like a pointillistic piece where you're making the dots, or I'm just using the straight edge to help me get some variation in the line, almost scribbling it a little bit as I go, and experimenting with just it's like pen and ink, just kind of using the line texture. I'm just kind of scribbling this in here to give myself a look to it. Let's see what I got going here. So it's a matter of texture. As I take a look at this, I haven't really made straight lines, just kind of scribbling, letting it bump up against the ruler, straight edge, whatever you have at your desk you can use. Let's see what you can do. So go ahead and give it a try there. It's kind of like a 2-point section here. When it gets there, I kind of have a dark value and a light value, so I'm going to try to keep that even though the shading is pretty dark. And I can just start to shade that in. But I still like the textural elements, so I'm going to keep that going. That's fine, just leave it there. And then as it shades in there, you can get a gradient even with the texture onto that. So you can kind of see I have a lot of the texture happening. It's going pretty good. But now I can go back to the brush. This is a wood grain texture, so I can try to simulate that even with the pen. And it gives me the perspective sketch as well. Build that section up there. So see how you do on it. Give an edge there. So again, it has the shape underlying it with the vanishing point kind of headed to the right and left, builds up the shape. Cylindrical section for this overall piece. You got your sponge brush.